No Credits Rolled.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of No Credits Rolled. My name is Sam Whalen. That's right, everybody. Spooky, haunted, cursed episode 13. Will this podcast get possessed? Let's find out. Anyway, before we get started, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're on TikTok and YouTube at No Credits Rolled, so you can check us out there. That's at No Credits Rolled. Wherever you get your podcast, wherever you get your social medias, we'll be there for you. Except for Instagram. We're not on there yet. I'm working on that. Today we've got some couple news stories and a review. I'm going to be talking about Dying Light 2. So let's get into the show. So our first story today, we have Xbox Games Pass Standard Tier won't include Day 1 titles as Microsoft hikes prices again. So this is sort of a two-for story here. The original story is this Games Pass price hike. All this comes from Rebecca Valentine and Ryan Dinsdale over at IGN. They said, quote, Microsoft has quietly revealed it will not include Day 1 releases like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 in the standard Game Pass tier amid price hikes to the service. So then they go back and they talk about the price hikes here. Quote, first reported by Windows Central and outlined on Xbox support, Microsoft is raising the price of Xbox Games Pass Ultimate from $16.99 to $19.99 a month. So that's about a $3 increase. In the United States. It's also replacing its more basic $10.99 Xbox Game Pass console tier with Xbox Game Pass Standard. Sorry, this all gets very wordy. A $14.99 option, which doesn't include the beloved Day 1 release features. Specific entries to the Game Pass Ultimate Library, access to EA Play, Xbox Cloud Gaming, perks, quests, and discounts on games in the Game Pass library. So basically, to simplify this, they are now making it two different... well, I guess it already was two different tiers. But they're raising the prices, and they're cutting back on what is going to be in the Xbox Game Pass Standard tier. So if you get Standard, you're not going to have a whole lot of stuff. I guess you're just going to have access to the already existing library, but you're not going to get those Day 1 exclusives, which is kind of I would say it's a core part of Games Pass, unless you shell out the $20 a month now for the Ultimate tier, which I personally have paid for already. Price increases suck, but hey, we're going to get into why they probably increased the price in a second. Anyway, back to Rebecca Valentine and Ryan Dinsdale's article. Microsoft didn't commit to eventually bringing these titles to Xbox Games Pass either, saying titles such as Black Ops 6 may be added to the library at a future date. Those wanting to play these games at launch and potentially at all will therefore need to pay for the rolling $19.99 a month Games Pass Ultimate tier. And these changes will go into effect, actually, at the time of recording, they will already go into effect for new members on July the 10th, and then for existing members this September. Conveniently, existing members will affect existing members in September 12th, right before Black Ops 6 comes out. So I'm sure that's not a coincidence. So this sort of price increase has been talked about for a while. People have been speculating this is going to happen given the acquisitions that Microsoft has been doing, given the things that are coming to Games Pass. People were like, okay, well, they've got this lineup. They're probably going to raise the price to sort of back it up. Now, this is also paired with recent layoffs made by Microsoft over at Tango Gameworks, Arcane Austin, other studios. So really what I wanted to focus on today is like, this price increase, while also they're still laying people off, they're still closing studios. It's an unfortunate symptom of our times, right? I mean, there's always more money to be made, but could there be more effective ways to make money where you could prevent laying people off? Now, I'm not an economist, right? I've a tenuous grasp on money at best. It's a miracle I can pay my bills, but like I just, from an outsider's perspective, I don't know, maybe I'm connecting dots that aren't really there, but it's just a price increase combined with layoffs. I'm just not a fan of it. But Xbox has dropped a lot of money acquiring studios. Like I said, it's not surprising. And if you have subscription services to other quote-unquote streaming services, because this is like, it's been compared to the Netflix of gaming for Games Pass. But if you have services like HBO Max or Hulu or any of these other services, they have all been steadily raising their prices. I mean, Netflix, if you get like the super duper tier, is like over $20 a month now. So these companies always like to do these things where they hike the price just a little bit every year because they know that 85% of people are not going to cancel their subscription, or they're not even going to notice the price change. They're going to read a headline like this and just fork over the extra $3. But if they do that every year, in 10 years, that they're getting exponentially more money because they're raising the price every single year and people just continue to pay it. And hey, guess what, folks? I'm one of the people that will continue to pay it. I have no intentions of canceling my Game Pass subscription. I still think it's valuable to me for how I like to play games and what kind of games I like to play. But this is a trend we see with a lot of these different companies. In the gaming industry anyway, there is also happens to be a ton of layoffs this year that has been, this year and last year, that has been sort of the focus of a lot of stories of sort of just highlighting the record numbers of layoffs while profits continue to soar as well. So this, I already mentioned the thing about Black Ops 6. So, and prior when I talked about Black Ops 6, I mentioned that when things come to Games Pass day one, there is a loss in profit from those disc sales because people will just get it on Games Pass and they don't have to pay the full $70 for it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if this this price increase comes to sort of offset that profit loss, right? So you're getting this huge game, one of the biggest games of the year on your service. This can, you can use that to justify the price increase, which I understand, honestly, and not to mention the ton of money they spent on the Activision acquisition. They want to reap the rewards of that, both by publishing these games or, having these games on their service. And because of that, you're going to have to pay an extra $3 a month. You can see that how you will, I guess. I guess for me, it comes down to, am I using Games Pass pretty regularly to justify the now $20 a month, $120 a year? And for me, yes. I check the Games Pass drops almost every day. If I'm on my Xbox, I go and see what's dropped, and nearly every game that comes out to that service, even if it's not a big AAA game, if it's just an indie game that I've never heard of, I download it and I'll usually check it out. Maybe they're not all for me, but I'll get at least an hour usually of each of the games that they drop to check it out, unless it's something I know I already don't like they put out like a cricket game, like the sport, and I don't know what cricket is, so I skipped on that one. But generally, I'm downloading most of these games the day they come to Games Pass and checking them out, which has allowed me to play a lot of games that I either wanted to purchase or that that I had never even heard of and that are now available to play, like Octopath Traveler 2. 1 and 2 just came to Games Pass, and I've been wanting to play the sequel to that for a while. And now I can because it's on Games Pass, and it was able to save me the money that I would shill out buying that outright. And it's sort of similar to why I'm a big fan of GameFly too, because for what I do, and the idea of the show that I never finish these games, when I'm shilling out the money for these full price games that I never finish or I don't like when I get them, I'm able to sort of avoid that with streaming services or these sort of content libraries like a GameFly or like a Games Pass, where I can sort of have the game temporarily and then play it and then delete it from there without having to incur the full price. So this new standard tier, it sort of, I don't know who would sign up for this. It doesn't include the day one titles, and I guess it would just give you the online multiplayer, which I don't know if that was there before, and access to the existing gaming library, which, hey, that's pretty good because there's a lot of great games on there. But having a whole tier that doesn't include those day one titles is kind of a bummer, because when Games Pass was pitched, and I mean, when I pitch it to people, it is like the day one thing is like a core element of it. So separating that into its own section is a little bit strange. And I think the majority of people are going to pay for that Game Pass Ultimate anyway. I don't really understand why you need a standard tier when the majority of people probably are just going to shill out the extra $5. If you're going to swim, you might as well drown. So Xbox is continuing to acquire more assets for Games Pass. So when we talked about this when we started this story, it's not a shock that the price of Games Pass is slowly climbing. And sort of what I want to wrap up this segment with is it still worth it? And I already touched on my opinions on this a lot. For me, it is still worth it. But for the general consumer, right, for the person that wants to come home after their long day of work and maybe just play some multiplayer games or maybe play a big single-player game, like a AAA single-player game they've been working through, I don't know if Games Pass at $20 a month, I'm not sure if that is going to be realistic for the more casual audience. And I'm curious to see if this price increase actually makes a difference in Games Pass subscribers. Like I said, I doubt most people are even going to cancel it or even notice the price increase until it hits their credit cards. So, and in all this, while they raise the price on Games Pass, they lay people off, they close studios. So it's like, I don't know. It just seems like a 1-2 punch. Could they have prevented layoffs by raising the price more? Would that have worked like that? Is that how the numbers, would convert? I'm not sure. I doubt it. I mean, this just seems to be standard now for the industry of, even if you have a flop or a success, these studios are getting closed either way, and then the consumer is still paying more to sort of cover the losses as well. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if in another year around this time we get another price increase, especially if Xbox comes out and gets another big acquisition. This thought actually just occurred to me going back to the question of, is this for the casual gamer? I mean, Call of Duty is one of the best-selling games every year. It's it's got mass market appeal. So maybe that's what they're going for with this change by making it so you can only get these day one exclusives on the Ultimate tier. Maybe they're trying to hook in the more casual audience because, everybody plays Call of Duty. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. The majority of people will at least check it out. And especially a Black Ops 6, a title that people are very excited for, that they've been waiting for, that I think has pretty positive public opinion. It could be successful getting more people in because they don't want to, they say, hey, I can either spend $70 and play this, or I can get a service that I was maybe curious about, Xbox Games Pass, for $20. I'll just spend it for this month that Call of Duty comes out. I'll drop the $20. I'll get to play Black Ops when it comes out, and I'll get to check out all these other games. And then before you know it, it's, a year later and it's hitting your credit card every month and you don't even know about it. I could see that being the play here. It sucks to see it being separated, that day one title thing being separated from different tiers, and of course the price increase. No one likes to pay more for things. So, but that is story number one. Let me know what you think about this price increase. If you have Games Pass, are you going to keep it? Do you feel the price increase is justified? And then we'll be seeing Call of Duty in just a couple months. So we'll see if it is, the hit that Microsoft needs it to be. Anyway, story number two, we have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League Season 2 delayed just 2 days before launch. Now, this isn't really like an important... none of this is important to like the state of the world. But I just like to talk about Suicide Squad because, I don't know, this game is like my white whale. I wanted to play it for so long. I was following the stories about it, and then when I finally got my hands on it, it was such a disappointment that obsessed is a strong word, but I definitely am interested in the continuing narrative of this game. But this is from Taylor Lyles over at IGN. Quote, Rocksteady Studios is delaying the release date of Suicide Squad Season 2 days before the new content was set to go live. In a hilarious tweet from Rocksteady, they said, update, Task Force X will be adjusting the release timing for the next season. Hashtag Suicide Squad game Season 2 will now launch on July 25th. Thank you for your patience. You got to respect them staying in character, right? Addressing Task Force X. Make sure to use that hashtag Suicide Squad game. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's a Suicide Squad. It's like inherently funny to me. I don't know. I want to make it clear. I don't want to dunk on the devs. I'm sure Rocksteady is just ripping their hair out with this game. They didn't even want to make the game like this. From what reports indicate, it was a disaster behind the scenes. There's a Bloomberg article that I was going to include in this, but I didn't think I'd be able to do it justice, but go check that out if you want a more full behind-the-scenes look at what this game was like for this studio and sort of where it's left them. It's extremely unfortunate, but in terms of what it's being covered in the media, the game continues to be a dumpster fire, and it's a dumpster fire. How else can I describe it, really? It's tough to see. I believe the expanded content was going to be Mrs. Freeze, a female version of Mr. Freeze. They had the Joker. They added that as well. But Mrs. Freeze is going to be the new content with new missions and all the stuff you want. New gear, new loot, new shiny things to pick up. And now it's delayed. And they did it 2 days before the launch, by the way, which is just so fitting for this game of like fumbling the bag at the finish line. I don't even know if people were going to check it out anyway, but now, who knows? I didn't even know this was coming out. I don't own the game anymore because I sent it back, but for those that were waiting for this, I can't even imagine, what the forum posts are like. It reminds me so much of Avengers, the post-launch roadmap for Avengers. It's where they had like this month you're going to get this character, and then we're going to do a big expansion, and then Spider-Man, and then this, and then that. And it's like before you know it, they're in over their heads and they're pushing things back. And by the time the game's turned off and not able to be sold anymore, they've hit like 3 or 4 of the things on there, and they were counting on it to be more successful than it was. And I think Suicide Squad is in a similar situation. It's always a shame to see a game die a slow and painful death. Personally, I think it's way too late to save this game. I think it was kind of dead on arrival, to be honest. I mean, it's just people did not want this game, not from Rocksteady, not from this dev, not necessarily with these characters. And it's sort of just limping along. And I would not be surprised if by this time next year, this game is dead, right? The servers are off, or maybe it's just an offline only thing, which I'm not even sure is an option given the live service nature of it. It just seems like a plug pull and is inevitable here. One last thing I want to mention. I really hope this doesn't lead to the closure of Rocksteady. We see what happens when devs have a failure of a product that comes out, especially one that is severely, I would say, overestimated in terms of success, and a Warner Brothers product too. They're kind of known for canning things when they're failures. But Rocksteady is a historic dev when it comes to the Batman Arkham games, and it would be a shame to see them close over something like this, something they didn't even really want to make. I hope they're able to at least be given another chance, or maybe acquired by somebody else to sort of make the game they want to make and not the game they're told to make. But we know the times we live in, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's the end of story number 2. And one last story here, because the first 2 stories I had were kind of a downer generally. And sometimes it's nice to report on something light or something even unique, and that's kind of what this is. So Minecraft, Candy Crush, and Goat Simulator are among the games that represent Sweden's cultural heritage. This headline caught my eye when I was looking up stories for this show. And this is from Sophie McAvoy at gamesindustry.biz. She says, quote, Sweden's games trade bodied... Oh, this is a Swedish word. Data spelled Brashen. Oh, that's really hard to say. Has revealed its game culture canon, which aims to highlight the cultural significance of games as forms of art and expression. Sweden's game culture canon comprises 15 games that have, quote, deep significance in Swedish culture, as selected by a jury of industry leaders, historians, and academics, after hundreds of titles were nominated by the public. So, like the headline says, games like Minecraft, Candy Crush, Goat Simulator, and I also saw It Takes Two is also included in that. I thought this was kind of cool. I don't know if I've seen something like this before where a country comes out and says, hey, we are proud of these games that came from our country, from our Swedish developers, and we're going to put them on a list and I like game culture canon. I like the idea of a country having a canon for their culture. But it led me to the sort of a thought experiment of like, this is a cool idea. And if you had to acknowledge devs or games from your country, what would you pick? Obviously, I live in America, but I know, according to our numbers, we've got some listeners all around the globe, so I'd be curious what you have to say. I wasn't sure about American devs, so I looked some up because I just wanted to be sure. But Bungie was founded in Chicago in 1991. EA is, of course, based in California. Infinity Ward was founded in 2002. And then, those are just a couple that I found that were representative of some American devs. I mean, I was going to say Call of Duty because, like, nothing's more American than first-person shooters. Am I right? That's a joke. But, Infinity Ward was an American-founded company. And then I have, Civilization, the sim, is always a good cop-out because you can just play as your country and you can make your story whatever you want from there and represent them that way. What story or what games would you say represent your country the best? The Swedish folks over there, they got Minecraft. Candy Crush was one that was surprising. I didn't realize that was a Swedish made game. But hey, good for them. Good for Sweden. Anyway, that's going to wrap up the news portion of the show today. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, I'm going to be reviewing Dying Light 2. You're listening to No Credits Rolled. All right, and we're back on No Credits Rolled. Today we're talking about Dying Light 2, Stay Human. I wasn't sure if that Stay Human part was an official part of the title, but I'm going to include it anyway. So it's an action RPG developed by Techland. Zombie parkour extravaganza is what I have as sort of the summary of it, because that's pretty much what it is. I've been really excited to play this game. This was a game that I wanted to buy for a while, but I've just been waiting for it to go on sale enough, and I was able to get it through GameFly, so I didn't have to, pay full price for it, which was nice. And I was a big fan of Dying Light 1. I really liked that game. I don't know if it was really for everybody, but as someone who really enjoys the Mirror's Edge games as well, and then Dead Island, sort of getting a merger of those two games was sort of perfect, I thought. It's not a perfect game, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's one of those 7 out of 10s that you just kind of treasure, and that's what the first Dying Light was for me. So to get a sequel and finally be able to get my hands on it was pretty exciting. With this game, I find it to be very immersive, which it might sound a little weird given what you're doing, because you can fight like lightning zombies and acid zombies and all kinds of different viral things that are very not immersive. But the minute-to-minute gameplay of this game is really what I mean when I say immersive. The parkour especially, the parkour is the big standout here. Getting an objective on the map and running there. Like I don't use fast travel in this game because the map is small enough that it's not that hard to get around. And also I just enjoy the parkour so much that it's like I prefer it over just fast traveling to wherever you need to go. It's not enough games have parkour in them. I think we need to up our parkour numbers going into 2025 if we can. I think more games should have it. For the 2 Mirror's Edge games, like I mentioned, big fan of those. I know that they leave a little to be desired in terms of everything else in the game, but especially Mirror's Edge Catalyst, I think, was great. And, I've been really wanting a Daredevil game. This is unrelated to this, but playing this game, playing Dying Light 2, playing Mirror's Edge Catalyst, a first-person Daredevil game, I think would just be so great with a mechanic like this. Now, obviously, you would have to not be blind. They'd have to find some way around that. Maybe you have Daredevil vision, detective vision thing. But whenever I play games like this where I'm parkouring and doing first-person combat, I always think of a Daredevil game and how great it would be. But back to Dying Light 2, Stay Human. I think this game would be pretty boring without the movement mechanics. I think the movement mechanics really hold this game up in a positive light. Because otherwise you're just sort of swinging over and over again, hitting zombies. There isn't a whole lot of depth to this combat. It reminds me a lot of Dead Island, the first one, and Riptide, where, you can craft these weapons with different mods. There's bladed weapons and blunt weapons and then heavy weapons, but they all kind of do the same thing. And I am playing on normal difficulty, but I'm not even really paying attention to modding my weapons or repairing them. I just pick up whatever I see that has the high number, because it does the red for better green for better stats, red for worse stats, and you can pick up weapons all the time. So I'll just pick up whatever's there if it's better than what I got, use it until it breaks, and then just pick up something else. It really doesn't seem to make that much of a difference when you're fighting, which is a bummer. I wouldn't mind something a little bit more fleshed out. And, there is that weapon mod system, but I haven't really felt the need to do it because the game isn't that hard, at least on normal. And, I guess you can add different status effects like lightning and fire and things like that, which do look cool, I guess, but they're not required to beat through the game. You're not going to hit a skill ceiling or a difficulty sort of gap there. So yeah, it's most enemies except for the virals, but your regular zombie, you're walking up, you're hitting them 4 to 5 times, and then you're doing an execution. I will say the executions are pretty cool. They help you break up the monotony of just swinging over and over again. Think Black Flag, that era of Assassin's Creed where you would just counter everyone and instantly execute them, which if you think about it is really not that exciting, but the executions were so cool that it kind of made up for it. And that's kind of what this game's like. There's a lot of great not a lot. There's 4 executions in the game, but it goes back to that immersiveness of it, right? Because you're in first person and it's seeing it all in first person, I think is really what makes it immersive. The gore is a highlight. I mean, if you're into that, if you're a gore person, if you like seeing blood and guts, this is a game for you. This might be the goriest game I've ever played. It's very detailed. I noticed it for the first time. I hit a zombie in the lower jaw and his jaw came off and I could see like his tongue and stuff, and it was like disgusting. Um, I've never played a game where it's that detailed, and you can see like brains exposed, chest cavities when you hit people in the chest. It's very it's gross, honestly. But like if you're into that, and if you like the gorier parts of things like Walking Dead, or if you just like seeing blood and guts, you'll like the gore in this. There's one takedown in particular where you gouge out someone's eyes, but because the executions are shared between humans and enemies, you'll just grab a zombie and like poke its eyes out, and that's how you kill it, which doesn't make any sense if you think about it. But like it's in the game and you can do it, and it's like so over the top that it's like kind of funny. Um, there's also an execution that's like clearly meant for a zombie where you like stomp its head in, and when you do that to a living human being, it's like you have to take a moment and really question your life decisions of like, what am I doing here? But like I said, hey, blood and guts are your move, and you're gonna want to check this game out, I guess, because it's disgusting. So the movement is the other highlight, like I already said. Running across the city, scaling different objects, it never gets old. And it's a RPG, so there's a combat skill tree and a movement skill tree. I do think you progress kind of slow in terms of leveling up. I remember the first game, I felt like I progressed a lot faster in terms of how you were rewarded XP. But as you flesh out your skill trees, you feel even more like, a cool ninja guy, because you get more movement abilities. Like there's even movement abilities that are like literally right from Mirror's Edge, of being able to leap off a small object to get like a height boost, things like that. And as you flesh that skill tree out, you really do feel the progression in terms of movement anyway. The combat, not really so much so far, but the movement, you do notice it in the extra moves you can get, or the way you're more fluid with transitions on rooftops and things like that. I mean, the story is kind of whatever. There's a choice mechanic where you can side. There's like a faction system, as if this is like, Infamous in 2009 or whatever. But they're doing like the faction system here where you can choose which faction to support. There's like a military police force, or there's like a gang. Essentially, those are your two choices. So I don't really know how much variety there is with that, really. I know when games employ this, it can sometimes be a illusion of choice, where like really no matter what you do, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. I've mostly been siding with the gang just because the other guy, I don't know, they're both bad, so it's like the lesser of two evils. It's really your personal preference. And there are big story decisions you can make of who you want to side with. But again, I'm not doing 2 playthroughs of this, so I don't know if the outcome is going to be much different. But I would not be shocked if it was just really 2 main endings on how things go. The voice acting is good from the main character anyway. I think that's a particular standout. I believe it's the same actor who voices Mirage in Apex Legends. So that's pretty cool. Everybody else is fine too, but the main character I think does a pretty good job. But that's Dying Light 2. We're probably never getting another Mirror's Edge game. I highly doubt it. And honestly, I would doubt if we get another Dying Light game after this. I don't know how successful this was or how well it sold. But it's nice to have a game where we can do these parkour mechanics, and being able to explore a city in this way, it's fun. We get games like Spider-Man where you zip around, and the movement in that is a ton of fun. And I think this is an example of that when it comes to the free running and the parkour, and how it's really worth playing it just for that, assuming you don't get motion sick, because I could definitely see that. But like there are some moments in this game where the height that you're climbing at, it really was effective for me. Like there's one where you have to climb this windmill to like detonate a bomb, and you have to jump onto this cage, and as the cage swings out from the windmill, you have to turn around and jump to the next section of it. And it's like, you're dangling real high, but like the sound design is great, and you hear the wind and the creaking of the cage, and your character's like gasping for air if you run out of stamina. And I don't know, I think it's very immersive, and I think it's very cool. And we don't get a whole lot of games where that free running and parkour is a mechanic, so it's good. It's definitely the standout of this game. So yeah, if you like zombie games, if you were a fan of Dead Island 2 didn't really hit for you and you want a little something more, this game can maybe do that for you, because you have the free running aspect of it. I know I believe there's a glider you can get at some point, which I have not unlocked yet. But But yeah, if you're a zombie fan, if you're an RPG fan, if you're looking for a great 6 to 7 out of 10 to sort of turn your brain off and just bash some heads in, Dying Light 2 sounds like it might be the game for you. But anyway, that's going to wrap up episode 13 of No Credits Rolled. I know that was a little bit of a shorter episode, but I just really wanted to get on and talk about my thoughts on Dying Light and cover some story from the news. And I think that's what we did today. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Of course, remember, you can always email questions or comments to nocreditsrolled@gmail.com. That's nocreditsrolled@gmail.com. You can also call in and leave us a voicemail at 856-209-0713, 856-209-0713, and we might just play it on the air. Of course, make sure to get No Credits Rolled, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, leave a review if you can. That very much helps out the show. Also, go ahead and drop us a follow over on TikTok. We post some breakout content over there. Sometimes we break out reviews and put them up there. And by we, I mean me. So yeah, just wherever you can get us, subscribe to, follow us. It all helps the show quite a bit. And of course, there is always a Patreon if you're feeling generous, but you definitely don't have to. Just a follow and a like is always a big help. But anyway, that's all I got. I'll see you next time on No Credits Rolled.